What a fucking year, man. Hi everybody, it's Amberly Perrine. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're not new. Today, as you can tell from my last video, obviously a lot happened last year. I'm getting better. I took the time away from YouTube to heal mentally, emotionally, and all of the ways. I went and tried to get some help with grieving, but then they ended up sending me to freaking inpatient, and you know how I feel about that. So, John ended up coming to come get me after day one, because I just cried the whole time. I just couldn't do it. I made him come get me. So, anyways. So my year in rewind, January 2024, obviously, because of my last video, you heard, we went and got our own apartment. We were no longer homeless, thanks to my wonderful, hardworking husband. We got out of that situation of being homeless and all that. Then the rest of January last year was uneventful because I was still pregnant with Hunter, and we weren't homeless anymore, so I thought, you know, I can breathe now. I don't have to worry about anybody trying to take him from me. Everything's good. February of that year, again, nothing really eventful happened other than me planning to get an induction and discussing it with my doctor. In March of 2024, March 19th, we had Hunter, and if you watched my last video, then you know what happened to him, but I'm gonna explain anyways because it's a year in rewind. We did not know about Hunter's condition. When he was born, he had a ventricle missing. It was the left ventricle, and we did not know. We were not told this. In the anatomy scan, they found it, but they told us that his heart was perfect. So we were fully expecting to have a healthy baby. So when he came out purple, obviously we were shocked. I was like, I've had a baby before and he did not look like that, so what is going on? And it was very shocking, to say the least. We were not expecting that. We were just hoping he was okay and hoping that he was healthy, but turns out the reason why he was purple was because when you have hypoplastic left heart syndrome, you have issues with circulation. So the reason why he was purple was because he just wasn't having a good day with circulation. I'm having a hard time explaining it because I suck at explaining, especially with this situation that happened, because, you know, nobody really wants to talk about the death of their baby, but I am for educational purposes. Hold on, just give me a second. It wouldn't blend, so I guess we go back to high school. When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. I messed up. I accidentally got it underneath my eye when I was blending because particles fell out, so I guess we really did go back to high school. And yes, I do have makeup remover wipes now, but I'm too lazy to get up and get them, so this is gonna have to work. I'll get this bought up, but this is gonna have to do. Okay, so, as I was saying, when he was born, like I said, he was purple because he had circulation issues. But what they don't tell you about the human body is everything is like a domino effect. So Due to his blood circulation issues, we also had a hard time keeping his blood sugar levels up. So he had scarily low blood sugar, like down to what a baby should not have. It was down to like the 50s and 40s and all that. So they had to, in order to keep my baby alive, they had to keep giving him insulin. And then it would get really high, higher than what it was supposed to be. And then it was way higher than it was supposed to be. So they had to do something there to lower it a little bit, and it was scary. But they finally got him stable enough where he can be in the room with me. But then he couldn't eat because his lungs weren't working right. So every time we swallow, we stop breathing for 2 seconds. But when he swallowed, he stopped breathing for like 7 seconds. It was scary. A newborn baby should not stop breathing for 7 seconds, but he did. So, that is when they decided that, hey, we're going to take him to the NICU to kind of flush him out a little bit. And protocol, they could not give him back to me that night. They had to keep him under observation. I was freaking the hell out, obviously. They had to give me something for anxiety through an IV, and I was freaking out so much that a horse trank through an IV was not cutting it. So they had to give me a Visceral pill on top of liquid IV medications to help calm me down. And it was still not good enough. John had to sit in the bed in front of me and hug me, literally rock me like a child to sleep for me to finally feel the effects of everything, and then I finally crashed out. So, one day postpartum, day 1 postpartum, they came in and told me that my baby has a heart problem. Would not tell me what, just that his heart problem. He had a heart problem. And they had to fly him 3 hours away to Little Rock for heart surgery. And we obviously consented because, yes, save our baby. What do you mean? It wasn't until we got to Little Rock that they told us that he was born without his left ventricle. And I was, of course, blaming myself. I still blame myself because I was the one who carried him in my stomach. They said that it was nothing I did or couldn't or didn't do. It's just the way his genetic makeup was before he was even 5 weeks. It was already predetermined at conception. Once the cells and everything start developing, it was already in his DNA. His chromosomes already mutated, and it was a chromosomal defect. It's a mutation in the DNA that causes things like that. And it just happens, you guys. Like, it's just something that his body decided to do. And it was nothing that I could have done to prevent it. It wasn't anything I could have eaten or could have stopped eating to prevent it. It was just the way God intended it. And of course, I was very mad at God for a very long time. I still am mad at God. So, they flew us to Little Rock. They flew John to Little Rock. I was postpartum and they wouldn't fly me out. So I had to get a ride to Little Rock. And I did. I signed an AMA form. I didn't even stay for the 2-day postpartum thing like they wanted me to. They wanted to give me some vaccines. They wanted to check my blood sugars. They wanted to do all kinds of stuff. And I said, no, give me an AMA form. I'm going to Arkansas. I'm going to Little Rock with my baby. I don't care. So they made me sign an AMA form, and they even gave me a mental health specialist to come in and try to talk to me because I wasn't taking care of myself or whatever. But, like, what kind of person would not want to go be with their baby? So I told the mental health specialist to go fuck herself, and I left. Literally, that's what she said. She's like, I would like to talk to you about your mental health. And I said, I would like you to go fuck yourself. I'm leaving. And that is what happened. And I left, signed the AMA form, put it on my bed, and didn't even wait for them to give me my pamphlet on how to properly take care of myself. They said, let me go get you a pamphlet. And I said, okay. Left the AMA form on my bed, signed and dated, and I booked it, and I took off. Could have had a hemorrhage, but I wasn't caring about that. I cared about my son. So, yes, we went to Little Rock to go be with him. And I regret nothing. I really don't. I would do it again. The same thing that I did in the hospital, I would do it again. I would do it 1,000 times again. I would do it for any of my kids. I would do it for Riley. I would do it for this baby. And yes, I'm pregnant again. Wasn't intended, wasn't planned, but I am, and I love this baby. I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, this is eyeliner, so I'm gonna need full concentration. Hold on. Good enough. Okay. So, where am I at? Oh yeah, this is blush. So, my baby was, and this is still March, by the way. This all happened in March. So, my baby was 2 days old when they gave him what's called a PICC line, which is a needle through here, and it goes all the way to the heart, and it is like a giant IV. That's how they took blood out, that's how they gave him IV medications for his heart, because when you are a baby, you have a hole in your heart that you're born with, okay? And it closes when you're a certain amount of months or a certain amount of days old. And I think it's supposed to be before you're a week old is when it closes. If Hunter's heart valve closed, his heart would have exploded in his chest. That is what they told me. And obviously it made me like freak out when they told me that. I was like, what? And I started crying. It was like, so they told me that they can give him a medicine to keep that valve open until they can get him into surgery. So that is what they did. And when he was a week old, my baby had major heart surgery. What parent wants to hear that their baby, what parent needs to hear that their kid in general needs a major heart surgery that is a 50% rate of survival? He could have died in the OR, you guys. But I trusted the medical staff. I trusted the surgery. I trusted the medical team. I trusted the surgeons. I was just hoping that he made it. And I didn't believe in God at the time, but I was praying to God. I was just hoping that he made it through. And he did. He made it through surgery with flying colors. He was stable the entire time, which was impressive for him. What they did was they placed a shunt in to replace that part of his ventricle that was missing to help his heart not work so hard. And then when he was 6 months to 1 year, he would have needed another heart transplant. Not a heart transplant, another shunt, like a bigger one, which was the same thing. And then 3 to 5 years old, he would have needed another shunt that was bigger than that one. And then he would have been placed on the transplant list when he was 12 to 15. So, yeah. He went through a lot in his tiny life. But he was, you guys, he was a soldier. He took it like a champ. He, obviously, he was grumpy. He was a grumpy baby because he was in pain. But, we stayed with him, and we held on to hope for him, hoping that he would make it, and he reached all of his newborn milestones that they said he would never reach. part of the reason why I'm putting makeup on is because I don't want to cry while I tell this story, and this was all expensive, so I don't want to cry. But I hope my makeup looks good. I was just kind of fooling around a little bit. And I'm going to do one final sweep through of my bronzer and everything. Let's see, did I do it? Okay. Sweet. 1 second, y'all. A little closer. Okay. So anyway, when he was out of surgery, they told us that we can only see him for 10 minutes at a time every hour. So, because the reason why they did that was because when he was born, like when he had surgery, he had his chest still open. He had a chest tube. The reason why they still had it open was because they had to stitch the inside of his heart. So they had to keep an eye on it to make sure that the stitches on the inside didn't pop and explode and all of that. They also needed to make sure that he didn't get too overstimulated, because if he did get too overstimulated, his heart, whenever we get mad and our heart starts pumping, you know, like when you're about to beat somebody's ass and your heart is just like pumping and you can just feel the blood through your ears, normally we re-regulate. Hunter would not have, and Hunter's heart was at a very high risk at exploding. And it was very scary, so that's another part of the reason why they didn't want us in there for too long. Because even when we get excited and we're happy, our heart starts beating really fast. And we just could not risk him getting too excited, whether that was an angry excited, a sad excited, a happy excited. They wanted him, like, chill, you know what I mean? So I was not allowed to hold him for the entire recovery process, which took a couple weeks for them to actually let me hold him. They had a chest tube in because they wanted to make sure that we got all of the fluid out, because if that had just sat there, that would have been cause for infection. So there was that risk as well. You guys, if I had a whole list of everything, of every single cord, every plug, every medication that he was on, we would be here all day. Like, they put him on everything that you can think of. They kept him on heparin they had him on heparin, they had him on phenobarbital for seizures, they had him on ketamine, they had him on O2, they had him on all kinds of things. Like, it was a lot. They had him all wrapped up in IVs, they had him all wrapped up in, all tangled up in oxygen cords and oxygen masks, and so yeah, you best believe that every hour that they told us that we could come back, I was always in there. I set an alarm, I set a timer for 1 hour, and then I had another timer for 10 minutes, and every time the 1 hour timer was off, I wheeled myself back in that room and I just sat there and talked to him. I sang to him. I told him, Mommy loves you. You're so brave. You're so strong. You got this. Give me a second. And then once the 10-minute timer was up, I silently wheeled myself back out, and it took everything in my power not to hold his tiny hands and
They had him on a paralytic because his chest was open. They didn't want him to move. They didn't want him to get excited and go like this with his hands like he used to do. So they had him on a paralytic, but he was still looking at me, and we still made eye contact and had meaningful conversations. I still let him know that mommy was here. And then I left. They said it would be about 2 weeks before they could get the chest tube out. But he was awesome, and they got it out within 1 week. And he was fine. And then they closed his chest back up, and then I could hold him again. And I held him. And then they gave him a little bit of time to recover, and then we were into the room of what's called intermediate, where we could sit in the room with him at all times, be with him at all times, and they taught us how to properly take care of him with his condition and all that. Which leads me into April. In April, at the end of April, my baby coded because we were trying to get the feeding tube out, and we were bottle training. And he was just doing amazing at that. The only thing is they told us he has to be burped after every 4 swallows. For now, he has to be burped after every 4 swallows, and burped again after he's done, of course. But his bed could not be laid flat, it had to be laid up, or else he would have choked. If he were to spit up, it would go down into his lungs, and with how weak his lungs were, which was their next focus whenever he came back to the hospital, it would not be good. So we knew this. Y'all, I fell asleep one time. I was so tired. I was up with him for a week straight. I was exhausted. I closed my eyes for 20 minutes and I'd slept through the feeding alarm. And instead of waking me up, his nurses decided to feed him for me, which is all fine and dandy. Except they did not burp him at all and laid his bed flat and let my baby choke to death. He coded for about 45 minutes to an hour. So they did bring him back in a way. But he was coded for so long that his brain was too far gone, and he ended up being brain dead, which leads me into May 3rd. They told us that there was no brain activity, and we had to pull the plug on him. Obviously, I don't want my baby to suffer anymore. He's been through so much at this point in time already, and while he was on the ECMO machine, which is a machine they used to give his heart a break to let him come back a little bit, which is how they found out that he was brain dead, because they wheeled him into a CT to make sure that he was stable, and he was not. His heart was pumping because his body was still alive, but his brain was not. So, the whole time he was on ECMO, he was having seizure after seizure after seizure after seizure after seizure after seizure. Because his brain was trying to tell us, hey, I'm not here anymore. And so we took him outside because he had never seen outside before. And I held him, and I rocked him for the first time in weeks. And the last time that I held him, I sang to him, and he held on until the last lyric of the last song. And something told me to have them check his heart. And it wasn't beating anymore. And they told me he was gone. And the scream I let out, I will never forget it. I will never forget the amount of emptiness that I felt, and that I still feel, and how much this sucks, and how much it sucks even more when my haters use Hunter's memory against me, and they use the fact that I had a baby die against me. Y'all really don't understand how much it hurts, and I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. I don't care how much I hate you. If you tell me that your son died or your daughter died, I would give you a hug, because I don't want anybody to go through this. It sucks. So we had no choice but to go back home to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and without our baby. Which brings me back into June. I had a mental breakdown, and I was hospitalized for like a day. I made John come get me. Father's Day, was hard. Found out we were pregnant, in July. And then August, we lost our apartment because even though he was always working, rent went up, and we just couldn't afford it anymore, and we got evicted. So we had to come back to Arizona in September. And we moved back in with some roommates. We moved in with roommates. I get visitations with Riley, and I'm working on my case with him. October was Halloween. We took Riley to trick-or-treating, and that was nice. November, we had Thanksgiving with Riley. December, I turned 24. So I'm old. I'm 24. And we had Christmas with Riley and New Year's Eve with Riley. So I'm keeping on. Oh, and also I found out in November that we're having a baby girl. So I'm having a daughter this time. I am 30 weeks pregnant. Sunday makes 31, so I'm already getting there. I'm sorry that I took a long hiatus. I just really needed to heal. So that being said, I love y'all, and I will see you in the next video.